My name is Jenny, and I am a student of English literature. This is my story. I want to share my life in London with you and tell you about my amazing teacher. You can read my story and learn English with me. It was a beautiful summer day, and I was traveling on a train. Two women sat opposite me, speaking in English, a language I wasn't very good at yet. I was still a beginner, and my vocabulary was limited. But despite that, I gathered my courage and started a conversation with them using basic English. To my delight, they understood me. That small success made me so happy. I told them that I wanted to learn English. They smiled warmly and told me they were from England, returning home from a conference. We talked for about 10 minutes until the train reached my stop. As I got up to leave, the women kindly gave me their address and phone number, saying, "You can visit us in England anytime." Their kindness touched my heart. We said goodbye, and I stepped off the train, feeling inspired. After that meeting, I worked on my English every day. I translated texts and watched movies in English. In just 6 months, my English improved a lot. Things were going well, but I wanted to learn even more. So, I made a big decision. I traveled to London to study English. When I arrived, I enrolled in a school, and my first lesson was on a Monday. I was excited but also a little nervous. My teacher was a young, kind, and humble woman. She welcomed us warmly, making us feel comfortable. After introducing ourselves, she asked us a question to test our general knowledge of English. Then, she shared something that changed the way I learned. She told us that we wouldn't need to study textbooks or memorize long lists of words. Instead, she had a simple but powerful method. We would learn English by using it in our daily lives. This was exactly what I needed. Textbooks often confused me, but real conversations made learning enjoyable. Our teacher explained that language is meant for communication. It helps us express our ideas, feelings, and thoughts. The best way to learn a new language, she said, is to actually use it, speak it, listen to it, and immerse ourselves in it. Many students try to memorize new words and grammar rules, but they don't use English for speaking. However, in our class, things were different. We would use English every day, talking with each other and expressing our thoughts. That was the beginning of my incredible journey. With each passing day, I became more confident. Looking back now, I realized that the key to learning a language is not just studying, it's living it. They study the language, but they don't use it. That's the difference. Of course, learning new words and grammar is important, but you don't have to just study them, you need to practice them every day. In this course, I wanted to show a simple and effective method for learning vocabulary and grammar. I really liked what our teacher said. Our lesson continued as we discussed our hobbies and how we liked to spend our time, either in pairs or with our teacher. I found attending classes to be an enjoyable experience. I was truly happy that this learning method was proving to be both effective and beneficial for me. On Tuesday, I went to school again. That day, one of the students asked an interesting question: "What is the best way to learn new words?" Our teacher smiled and said, "There are many ways to learn new words, but I will tell you the most effective one. Statistically, the best way is reading." She explained that reading helps people learn new words naturally. Those who read regularly acquire vocabulary twice as fast as those who don't. She recommended reading for at least 30 minutes every day to get the best results. To make reading beneficial, choose books or texts that genuinely interest you, she advised. Enjoying what you read is key to learning effectively. It could be a fictional or non-fictional book, a story, or anything that captures your attention. But never force yourself to read something boring. If you're not interested, you won't learn much. She also warned us that when we don't know many words, it's easy to feel frustrated. That's why it's important to pick a text that is both interesting and suitable for our level. When you come across a word you don't understand, take a dictionary and look it up. Understanding the meaning of the word will help you grasp the text better and improve your overall knowledge. She said. She then shared an amazing fact: you don't need to write the word down to remember it. When you learn a word by seeing it in context and looking up its meaning, your brain locks it in automatically. The next time you see the word, you will remember it effortlessly. But reading has another powerful advantage. It not only introduces you to new words but also helps you understand how words connect within a sentence. Seeing how words are used in different contexts makes learning vocabulary much easier and more natural. Try this method, and you'll be amazed at how fast you can learn new words, our teacher said. With that, we continued our lesson, feeling more motivated than ever. We talked about life in England and the best jobs for students. This was an important topic for me because I wanted to find a job. I wanted to do something productive in my free time after school. I asked my classmates if they knew where I could find a job. They told me to visit a job center, as it offers many job opportunities, especially for students. This was great news. I was happy to finally know where to start my job search. After school, I went straight to the job center. I wasn't sure what kind of job I could do, so I asked the lady at the front desk, "What is the best job for a student?" She smiled and said, "We have some good jobs for students. You could work as a cleaner or as a waitress in a cafe." I hesitated and told her, "I don't have any experience with these jobs." She reassured me, "Your English is good enough to work at the cafe. The training isn't difficult, and you'll have more opportunities to practice speaking English compared to working as a cleaner." She then informed me that I could start my job on Thursday. Everything was going well for me. I was excited, not only because I had found a job but also because it would help me improve my English. The key to learning new words, our teacher always told us: if you want to learn new words effectively, read for 30 minutes every day. A classmate struggled with pronunciation. On Wednesday, I went to school again. There was one student in our class who was much quieter than the rest. He was from South Korea. During the lesson, our teacher asked if we had any questions. The student from Korea finally spoke up. "I have a problem with pronunciation," he admitted. "I know my pronunciation isn't very good, but I don't know how to improve it. Since I don't have many people to practice with, I avoid speaking." He went on to say that he reads a lot and watches films in English. He understands everything well. But he wants to improve his speaking skills. So, he asked our teacher, "What can I do to be better at pronunciation?" Our teacher listened carefully and then said, "Okay, let me explain something about pronunciation and how you can practice it. I will also teach you some techniques that can help all of you improve your pronunciation." She continued, "First, we need to understand why pronunciation is difficult for many students. When we speak, we move our mouths and use different muscles. The problem is that when you speak English, you might be using your mouth muscles the same way you do in your native language. This makes your pronunciation different from that of native English speakers." Her words made perfect sense. We were all eager to learn her techniques for improving pronunciation. This is a common experience for many students learning English. Almost everyone develops a slightly different pronunciation from what is considered ideal. However, this usually isn't a big problem. People can still understand what you're trying to say. Even if your pronunciation isn't perfect, that being said, if you want to improve your pronunciation, there is a great technique that can help you a lot. It's called shadowing, the shadowing technique. Shadowing is a very simple but effective method. When you do shadowing, you listen to a sound and copy it exactly as you hear it. Our teacher explained, when children learn their first language, they do it by copying. They repeat after their parents again and again, and one day, their pronunciation becomes perfect. You can learn English pronunciation in the same way. She told us how to practice. 1. Choose a video or an audio recording. It should not be too fast and should be easy to understand. 2. Listen carefully, focus on how the words are pronounced. 3. Repeat immediately, copy what you hear as closely as possible, without stopping the audio. To demonstrate, our teacher went to www.youtube.com and searched for videos on the shadowing technique. She found some great examples where shadowing was explained and demonstrated clearly. We watched the video and then practiced shadowing for about 3 minutes. At first, it felt a bit strange, but as we kept going, it became easier. Our teacher then said, shadowing is also very useful if you're preparing for a presentation in English and want to improve your pronunciation beforehand. If you're alone, you can practice shadowing for about 10 minutes. You'll notice a big improvement when you speak in your presentation. This technique intrigued me. I had never heard of it before. I decided I would definitely try it on my own. Joining a football team, after the lesson, I went to the school reception. I asked the receptionist, "Are there any sports activities at school? I'd love to play a sport while I'm in England." She smiled and said, "Yes. We have a table tennis team and a football team. The football team has training today at 5 o'clock." I was thrilled. Sports have always been an important part of my life. I immediately decided to join the training session. When I arrived at the football field, I met players from all over the world. It was exciting to see so many people from different countries coming together through football. I couldn't wait to start playing. I really enjoyed the training session. I was happy that my time in England was off to a great start. I had a wonderful teacher, made new friends from the football team, and tomorrow, I would be starting my job as well. Everything was going perfectly. The importance of pronunciation practice. Our teacher always reminded us, if you want to improve your pronunciation, repeat after native speakers. A new student in class. On Thursday, I went to school again. That day, we had a new student in our class. Her name was Elizabeth, and she was from Italy. At the beginning of the lesson, our teacher asked Elizabeth some questions. It turned out that they already knew each other. A year ago, Elizabeth had attended my teacher's beginner class for just 2 weeks during the summer holidays. When Elizabeth spoke, she did so fluently and eloquently. Her pronunciation was excellent, and she sounded almost like a native speaker. Our teacher smiled and said, "Your school in Italy must be really good," but Elizabeth shook her head and replied, "I don't go to any school. I learn English at home. I use the techniques I learned from you. I do a lot of reading, shadowing, and thinking aloud. I try to think more in English than in Italian. That's how I improve my English." She continued, "The 2 weeks I spent in your class last summer helped me a lot. You showed me the right way to learn English. Since then, I've been working on it every day. A year ago, I was a beginner, but now I can speak English. That's why I wanted to join your class again, to continue learning from you." Our teacher was delighted to hear this. She praised Elizabeth for her dedication and hard work. A new technique, thinking aloud. I was fascinated by Elizabeth's progress. I was already familiar with reading and shadowing, but she also mentioned something new, thinking aloud. I had never heard of this technique before, so I asked our teacher, "What is thinking aloud?" Our teacher smiled and said, "It's a very effective technique, but you need strong motivation to learn English for it to work. Some people may even find it a little strange, but if you practice it, your English will improve very quickly." I immediately said, "I have strong motivation. I don't care if the technique sounds crazy, if it helps, I want to learn it." "Can you teach us?" she nodded. "It's actually very simple. Right now, you think in your native language all day, every day, that's normal. But if you want to improve your English, start thinking in English instead. Then, take it a step further, say your thoughts out loud. That's all there is to it." It sounded straightforward, but I was curious about why it was so effective. Our teacher smiled and said, "Maybe you should ask Elizabeth, she has been using this technique and can explain it better." Elizabeth was happy to share her experience. When I first started using this technique, it wasn't easy. I began with very simple sentences, like, "I am capable of speaking English. It's great that I have this skill. I want to improve it every day." Practice is the key to progress. Even though my vocabulary was limited, I made use of the words I knew. I expressed my thoughts using those words. And over time, I became better and more confident. Her words inspired me. I decided that from that moment on, I would also start practicing thinking aloud to improve my English faster.